Roger, can you hear me?
I gotcha.
All right. Hey, Joe.
Well, let's see. This is Nathan. Can anybody hear me?
I can hear you, but your video is off. You have a camera on your computer?
It does. I've never used it before, so I'm looking to figure out how to turn that on.
Look down in the lower left down there is a video connection.
I hear you loud and clear up here in Northwest Michigan.
Okay, let's see.
Did you hear me, Mike?
Yes, I can hear you. It looks like you're sitting in the field.
Yeah, it's a little bit cool yet this time of year, but
Yeah.
it gets the fever going, to look at stuff like this. Now I just take one of my pictures and use it as the background.
Yeah.
It's too dark in my house. The pictures just does not come through good.
I'm getting a message that says failed to start video camera. Please select another video camera in settings. I've gone down there to the bottom right, and it says select a camera, and it's got check marked the integrated webcam. That's the only camera I have on my computer that I'm aware of, and it doesn't seem to want to play nice.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would think.
Hey, I could restart the computer and log back in and see if it fixed it.
Why don't you try that? We'll entertain ourselves while you do that. We got a couple minutes.
All righty, I'll be back as soon as I can.
Okay. What's that picture? Annabelle's?
Yes, Mike.
You gonna cut them down for cuttings?
Oh heck, those are all sold. I turned around and last summer I decided that I was going to put a U-dig up for them. So I posted the U-dig on Facebook. I think there was I had a total of 47 of them. And in less than 24 hours, every single one of them was sold, dug, and gone.
What did you price them at for U-dig?
$5 a piece in U-dig.
Yeah.
So the thing of it is some people are really ignorant because they showed up with a pickup truck, no cap, no cover, and I just told them there they are, and stop back up to the house when you're done. They pulls in with all these beautiful Annabelles, and it's like, well, where are you going? Oh, we're going so-and-so. Says, man, you need some type of protection to keep them things from being wind. Oh, they'll be fine. Well, I bet you when they drove close to 75 miles, they weren't too good when they showed up.
A $5 tarp is a great investment when you're hauling plants.
Yeah, exactly.
People don't realize that when you're transporting a plant like that, it's like taking a blow dryer and just holding it to the leaf and just, pushing all of the hydration right out of the leaves.
Yeah, I hope they come back this summer and tell me how wonderful they did, but I know that's not going to be the case.
Years ago, I had some stuff planted in my sister's backyard, and they decided they wanted to sell the house eventually. So, I was going to get the stuff out there. So I did a, U-dig kind of thing. It was crazy. I think, man, this was, wow, back in the 90s, probably, if not, yeah, probably late 80s, maybe. And I think I did $1,800 that day. People, they didn't have a clue. They, but they came out and they made an honest effort at digging, But I
Yeah.
was amazed at the response, the number of people that showed up.
You put an ad up for UDIG, and of course the cheaper price on that stuff, and that really intrigues people. And then they get over here and they start digging, and then it's like, oh, they realize really how much work that is. I mean,
Yeah.
dig 1 or 2 plants, it isn't bad, but it's really funny how quickly some people determines that they really don't want anything to do with that.
Right.
Um,
But then there's other people that to get that price, they're more than willing to do it.
I had a lady that showed up, I think was for my Lateris. I was selling those UDIG, what was it, 4 for $20. And she shows up, car pulls in my driveway, and I walks up to her, and she's got a wheelchair in the back seat. And she says, well, she was here for those Lateris. I says, well, you wanted the potted ones, right? Oh, no, I want to dig my own. And I says, how are you going to do that? Oh, I can manage. I ended up digging them for her and selling them to her for the UDIG price and stuff. There was just no way.
Right.
Some people just have to learn by themselves. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, my neighbor, he's older than I am. Let's just say that. And he had a bunch of argivite and all kinds of stuff. And a lot of the stuff was getting too big for him to dig. And I said, why don't you just put up a sign? You dig it, whatever price. And he's like, they'll mess it up. I'm like, if they buy them, they buy them. So he finally did that, and they cleaned him out. I mean, he was $20 a piece, $20 a piece, anything in the field, you dig it. And they completely cleaned him out and, took everything that he has. He's still got a few, the only reason he's got them is because people say, oh yeah, I'll be back, I'll take them in the fall. And then of course they never showed up. So now he's still got the plants, but he probably could have sold them 10 times over.
I had some limelight hydrangeas that I planted this last spring, and I planted them too close together. And they really surprised me. They took off. I planted them. We had a nice soaking rain. It was warm, and boy, they just took off gangbusters. And within 3 weeks, I realized I've got them way too close. So I turned around and put the UDIG, not really wanting to part with them, not really turn around and having the time to dig them. I put the UDIG onto it, and people started coming, and it's like, okay, wait a minute, because I didn't want to part with them, at least that many. So I says, okay, start digging every other one. So that's what they did. They dug every other one, and when I sold what I wanted, it was no more. And that.
Okay, I'm back, but the video still doesn't work. So hold on just a minute. My brother's upstairs. He's used Zoom for college stuff, and his computer's very similar to mine. Let me see if he's got an answer. I'll be right back.
All right, that's fine.
Hey, Tom, I finally turned around and got you on here, huh?
Absolutely, Joe. Can you hear me?
Sure.
I'll say hi to Tom and Kathy, Jen. I think I got everybody. Nathan is having issues with his video, so he's working on that. If he doesn't get it working, he's got audio, and we'll proceed with the audio only. But it would be nice to get him on some video.
Mike, it's finally nice to talk to you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Where are you located?
I am about 20 miles from Joe Coleman in Traverse City, Michigan.
Okay.
Way up in northern Michigan, right up along Lake Michigan. And, Joe's never mentioned it, but he and I do an awful lot of stuff together. We go in on orders together. I buy lots of plants from Joe. I don't have the room to grow. As you can see behind him there, he's got room to grow. So he grows a lot of stuff for me. It just goes to speak what a bonus it is to have a backyard grower near you.
No, without a doubt. I mean, I used to grow, you know, when I first started, you know, I started a couple times, but I had a couple of friends of mine, and you know, we grew in Larry's backyard, and we grew in Dale's lot, you know, and we did a lot of stuff together. And even in the backyard growers, there's, you know, one gal that I bought a lot of stuff from, and we've ordered plants and stuff together, you know. So it's always great if you've got somebody nearby that you can split an order. Matter of fact, right now, this week, I've got a $7,000 order coming from Heritage Seedlings, Japanese maples and Ruby Falls redbuds and stuff. But I split that with my niece's husband. He's a landscaper and he wants to start growing some stuff. So, you know, we just split that whole order right down the middle. That should be in this week.
Neither one of us proclaimed to be the very best at propagation, but we sure have learned a lot together. We struggle through, but we bounce ideas off each other 2-3 times a week. We talk to each other. So
Good.
yeah, yep. And he's a good friend.
That's better. Hey, Roger, have you heard from Dr. Henry? What, you know who I'm talking about, huh?
Birdwell.
Was that his name, Birdwell, the surgeon?
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't heard. His birthday was the other day, but I haven't heard anything. I haven't seen anything either. I mean,
Yeah,
I think
because you used to talk to him once in a while, right?
he would call a couple times. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was, according to Facebook, his birthday, he was 95. So
I know he was, yeah.
last year on Facebook, his daughters took him out to dinner and they posted pictures. He looked good, but I haven't heard nothing from this year, or didn't see anything. So I have no idea. Yeah, he was always fun to talk with. So.
Yeah. Welcome, Judy. Your audio or your video is off. If you can, you can turn it on. Lower left-hand corner of the screen.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
That's better than other thing, do you think?
Years ago when video phones first came out, I'm 72
Oh.
this month.
I sprayed some on there. I thought it worked a little bit better. Remember I did it?
Yes. But I
I don't know if
have a
it really worked.
video, I'd have to wash my hair every time I talk to
Oh,
them.
I thought I did some on the glass too.
But I'm grateful to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, your audio's a little bit difficult. Jen, what's up with you? We're waiting for Nathan to see if he can get his camera working. His computer's giving him a hard time. Your
Okay.
audio isn't working. It shows that you turned it on.
So
I'm
we've,
I had headphones plugged in. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. So I have been working with Lynn and Cindy, and we've gone in and on some things, and Lynn gave me some tips on how to order from the board and stuff like that. So I've placed a couple of orders. So I'm getting in there, and we're going, I guess we're going to get some blueberries, and we're doing some things from Norse Farms and New Moon. So we kind of collaborate together, put our money in together so we could get some starters.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a conversation we're just having with Tom. It's really great to be able to work if you got, people that are fairly close to you that you can work with and
Yeah.
order stuff together that way. Don, have we met?
No.
Your audio is, there you go.
No,
Okay,
I don't
guys.
think we have.
and this is Nathan here. Can we do it without audio or
We can.
video?
I already told everybody, if you don't get your camera working, we're gonna interview you via audio only. The camera
Yeah,
would be
we-
nice, but it's
We tried. It's rejecting it. We even got an external one that plugs into the computer, and we just keep getting the same rejection message. I have no idea.
And that's why we do plants, because computers are aggravating.
Yeah, you already saw the extent of my technical knowledge. Is turn it off and turn it on. If it doesn't work, Well, do something else.
That's about as advanced as any of us are. So we're kind of all in the same boat. So Listen, everybody, I posted on the board that I want to be able to use, I'd like to post this video on my public blog, so people can kind of get a feel for what we do and what everybody's about. So I just want to make you aware of that. So Tom, if you want to comb your hair or anything. All right, so real quick, I'm going to ask Don to introduce himself and tell us where he's from.
Okay, I'm in Kirkland, Washington, just a little ways from Seattle. What else do you want to know? I'm actually in a full-time horticulture program for a year, trying to get a little more knowledge and figure out what I'm doing. And I think this is my third year with you guys. I just started a misting system last year that's working out pretty well.
Good.
And I'm still pretty small. Just
So
doing.
you're West Coast, which means it's kind of difficult for you to buy from a lot of people around
Very
the country.
difficult.
But you can ship anywhere, and you are really close to some really awesome nurseries. I mean, there are a ton of really cool nurseries in Oregon for sure. I'm not sure about Washington, but
I have done a bunch of stuff with Joni Newell
okay.
Down there, and I actually just visited her again last fall because she's switching over to just hydrangeas. So I took a bunch of her stock with me, and she sold me a bunch of other stuff, and she's helped me out a lot. Brought me up a whole bunch of pots. She has family up here, so
Good.
yeah, I've been stuff with her.
There's, I know years ago, the Oregon Nurserymen's Association used to publish, it was a book. And I think back then they charged like $10 for the thing, but it listed all the growers in Oregon. And, there's just so many people there that do, really rare Japanese maples and stuff like that. So that's a great resource to have. I just mentioned, I got that order coming from Heritage there in Portland, I think it is. But freight is a killer across the country, so that's a huge advantage to be that close.
Yeah, good, thanks.
All right, hey, listen, we're gonna dive in here. The whole point here is to interview Nathan Carmichael, and I'm really excited about this, Nathan, because you've done some pretty interesting things. You do really well. You're probably one of our youngest members that I'm aware of. So. First of all, kind of tell me how you got started with this and how old you were when you started.
Okay, so I think probably the earliest we ran across your materials, I was probably about 18. I knew I wanted something to do agricultural, and Mom just kind of stumbled across your website when she was on the web, and they kind of looked into that and said, does this look interesting to you? And it did look interesting to me. So we got the videos, watched them, and it took a couple years until I finished some other things, but built some raised beds, started buying plants, planting them out there, and a year later started selling roadside. So pretty lean beginnings. I think one of the things that kind of I had to learn was that success doesn't come like that. It took me a few years to build up a customer base, getting people used to finding me at a certain location before it really started to build momentum. But even that first year selling, I knew that I just need a tiny slice of this market to make a living at this. So I could see the potential there. It just took a while to realize it.
All right, and if you don't mind, telling us how old you are now and where you're located, and then go ahead and plug your nursery a little bit too.
Okay, I'm located out just west of Knoxville, Tennessee, a small town called Clinton. 28 currently. Let's see. I probably right now. I probably grow between 25 and 30,000 plants a year. My biggest problem right now is figuring out how to stop expanding the nursery because I've done it so many years. So I've kind of reached the limits of what I can do. I typically start my sales in early March. I'm actually, my opening weekend will be 2 weekends from now, March 5th and 6th. And last year, I ran out of plants after 12 weeks of selling, which was which was great. Um, let's see. Yeah, that's
You,
about
you, you,
that's about the run of it.
you ran out of plants after how many weeks of selling?
12.
12 weeks of selling, and you had been producing plants and building up your inventory for like 9 years. So that's pretty impressive. I know you do a pretty brisk business there in the spring.
Yeah, I think the peak weekend last year was probably in April sometime. I don't know the exact number, but I think it was over 18,000 over 2 days, which blew the previous record out of the water by many thousands.
So
Yeah,
you did $18,000 over a matter of a couple of days.
yes, I did.
And at what price point are most of your plants?
I'm still stuck on the 597. Personally, I feel that's just a good fair price. I'm under all my competition, but since I do so much growing and propagating on my own, or I know where to buy stuff, pot it up and grow it out, I'm still making a better profit than they are. And so eventually, inflation, all that, and I'll eventually have to outgrow the 597. But for now, I'm sticking with that. I've been at that price point since 2016. I think was my first year switching up from 497.
If in a lot of ways, I mean, I was like you for the longest time, and I still am. I mean, I was selling it, well, I was selling it 497 in, I think, 2003, which is the last year that I sold, when we lived in that ranch house that probably all of you have seen all those pictures of. So I was 497 then, I'm only 697 now. But like you, if I root something and stick it into a container that cost me about 20 cents and I probably got another 15 or 20 cents in soil, that's a better profit margin than most businesses can even think about. So.
And speaking of your old place there, I think probably my favorite video that you did was just the landscape plant video where you went around your house talking about various plants, showing how they look in the landscape. Your landscaping was just so perfect. It was beautiful. I love watching that video. I've watched that one more than any other.
I remember doing that video and putting it out, and you know what it's like when you're online, and you guys, all you guys are wonderful. We've got wonderful members, but somebody, and I think she was somebody who was in the industry and was a little bit ticked off because she actually had to give me money to get the videos. And she wrote, she's like, how many times do you have to tell me how to take a cutting? And she was just going on and on about the video. So I appreciate you telling me how much you enjoyed it. But and I really miss the organization of that place because it wasn't big enough. The property was only half acre, so it wasn't big enough for me to let it be a mess. And of course, we lived there, and there's no way in the world my wife was going to let it be a mess or let me let it be a mess. So it had to look. But people were dumbfounded because from the front of the house, if we didn't have plants in the driveway, you wouldn't even know that there was a nursery. When you walk around the back, we had a really nice brick patio and a little waterfall. But then on the two edges, there was a small nursery. It was 1/20 of an acre, and boy, that was that was like the ideal setup. Now I'm on 4.5 acres, and to me, and people come and they tell me how wonderful it is, but to me, all I see is a disorganized mess every time I look at it.
I get that feeling too. There are times I walk around the nursery just really downhearted because I say, "Oh, that's failing. That rotted out. Why did that happen?
Right.
I can't do anything right." And then you move on and you realize, well, you're gonna lose plants. It's the nature of it. You're just trying to minimize how many die in the process.
Right. Well, that's the thing, and people have heard me say this many times, is that I bought 1,000 dwarf Alberta spruce. This is probably one of the very first plants that I bought when I was starting up at that property, that we're talking about there at that ranch home. I bought 1,000 dwarf Alberta spruce for $1 a piece. When they showed up, they were not well rooted at all. They weren't, really good plants. And at that time, $1 a piece was a pretty high price for something with roots on it. That would have been like an 89. I planted them out, put them in a bed, and then come winter, the frost pushed a bunch of them up and they fell over and dried out. And I didn't realize that was happening. And out of the 1,000, I lost about 250. and I was sick, I mean, that's $250, but I very quickly learned to forget about the 250 and focus on the 750 that I had left. And then a couple of years later, they got to be about 18 inches tall, and I sold, I think it was 300 or 400. I know it was a $1,200 order. I don't know whether it was 300 plants at $4 a piece or 400. I think it was 300 plants at $4 a piece. I sold them to one of the growers down the road that I had been doing business with for a long time. So in that one order, I recovered my full investment of $1,000, had $200 profit, and I still had at that time about 400 more plants to sell. And some of those plants, I wholesaled some more of them in it, but some of them I retailed for anywhere from 12 to 25 bucks a piece. And that's when I quickly realized that the number that you lose is irrelevant. Just forget about it and move on. It's just part of the business. Not every single plant that you plant is gonna make it. That's why we do numbers. So that's a really important lesson for everybody. And I'm sure by now you have learned that lesson well. You mentioned your brother. So how many siblings do you have?
I'm the third of 8.
The third of 8. Okay, I didn't realize there was that many of you.
Yeah,
Now,
so I'm the farmer stuck in between 3 mechanical engineers.
is that right?
So
My
guess where the technical help comes from.
Exactly. My youngest is a mechanical engineer. So now I know you have 2 sisters that when you have a surplus of cuttings, they actually offer them to our members on the board and kind of handle that themselves.
Yeah, so my retail area it took off to where I didn't need to do the packing and shipping, which I was grateful to be able to do that at that time. But some of y'all probably figured this out, but the process of labeling and making sure everything gets done just so it takes a lot of time. So, but I still had a surplus of plants and kind of hate to dump them. So I just give it to them and showed them how to pack and ship stuff. And a lot of the things that they've sold last year were things that they rooted intentionally on their own. They have a little bit of space in my mist system there, and they root Weigela and another number of other popular things like that. And they get a little cash flow through that.
That's awesome. I love to see that that they're getting involved as well. So you're propagating a lot of stuff, and of course I know that you buy, which is really smart. It's one of the biggest things that a lot of people starting out, they want to be able to plant a seed or root a cutting and kind of grow everything from scratch until the day they sell it. But a lot of times it's just smarter to leave some of that to somebody else that specializes in that, and just buy them and turn them over quickly. And I'm pretty sure you do a lot of that.
Yeah, I think last time I looked on my Excel spreadsheet, the amount I spent buying in plants last year was about 49,000. So yeah, propagating your own plants is great because your profit margin is higher on that individual plant, but it also takes time. Sometimes it's easier just to buy a plug tray of 72 or something and just pot it up real fast like that than it is to take the cuttings and wait for it to root. And a lot of times when you're buying in wholesale like that, you get a more uniform consistency to the plants that you're potting up. You always have when you're pulling your own plants out, you always have that when you get to the end of the flat and you get the runts there, is this worth the effort or do I just throw it away? Those few plants there, you kind of hate to throw it away, but
Right.
sometimes it's just not worth the effort.
It kills you to throw them away, but then if you pot them, you're like, at least the sun is going to burn these things up and I'm going to end up dumping them anyway.
It's taken me a long time, but I've gotten to the point now where I'm trying to grow less and less in the raised beds just because of the extra effort it takes to dig it and then pot it as opposed to just potting it directly.
Right.
But when I first started, I was using the hardwood bark, and that works fine initially. But I found after it's been potted for a while, that breaks down into this really fine silt and it was just kind of suffocating the plants. I wasn't having good success. So that's one of the reasons I planted so much stuff out in raised beds, because it would grow fine out there and I could pot it up and it would look fine. But switching to the pine fines that you mentioned a few years ago, that has really been a big help to my container growing.
Yeah, same exact thing happened to me. I was trying to build up a big stockpile of potting soil, and I was trying to do it with hardwood bark, which I used for years. And hardwood bark is fine, but like you said, it breaks down to the point that it doesn't drain well. Plain and simple, it doesn't drain, doesn't breathe well. And I had this giant pile that was just too fine. So I bought in a load of pine fines, and then I started adding that really decomposed hardwood bark to the pine fines, so that the pines would have a little bit of moisture retention, and that's really worked well, and that's what I'm still doing. So I'm curious, when you buy pine fines, where do you have to get them from? Where you're at there in Tennessee?
I've been buying mine from a place called Benchmark Company. This is out in Murfreesboro. That's near Nashville. So I think this year the price went up. I think it was like $2,400 for a tractor trailer load. In the past, it had been about $300 cheaper than that, but I've got to have the stuff. It's the lifeblood of the nursery, so it is what it is.
Is that like 80 or 90 yards?
I think they list it on the sheet as like 100 yards.
Right.
Whether it truly is, I don't know, but
yeah, I think they can fit, most of those trailers, they can fit 100 yards in there, but I get mine out of North Carolina and they bring me 80 yards at a time, and it was $34 a yard what I bought last fall or late last summer. So
yeah, at my current level, that one tractor trailer load like that was usually enough for about one whole year's worth of potting.
Right. Now, do you mix anything with it?
It depends on the plant. If like rhododendrons or blueberries, I will add a mixture of. I've started experimenting with rice hulls and peat moss. I'll make a mixture for specific things, but if I can get away with it, I just do the straight pine fines. Keep it as simple as possible. Throw some fertilizer on it and let it grow.
Exactly.
Yeah, I hate mixing the stuff, so I do it as little as possible.
So when you stop and think about spending $49,000 in 1 year on plants, do you have to like step back and pinch yourself? Because a few years ago you were hoping to sell a couple $100 worth of plants, and last year you spent $49,000 on plants.
Yeah, that's an insane amount of spending on plants. I am glad though that the nursery built incrementally, because if I just jumped in and had huge success right off the bat, I might have been overwhelmed with the amount of weeding or anything else like that. But I've slowly accustomed myself to the large amount of time and effort it takes to produce all of that, and it's just the natural part of things. I mean, there are things I want to eventually alter about the way I do things. Like currently I have my sales set up to where I advertise Friday and Saturday, close Sunday, but I have a sign in my sale area with my phone number on it where people can still pull up and they can call me from the back nursery and they can still get stuff during the weekdays. I would love to shut that part of it down, because it takes so many truckloads to refill the nursery from a weekend sale that it really annoys me to have to stop what I'm doing to go deal with a customer. So, but COVID, people wanting to come out and shop away from our crowd, I wasn't able to do that last year. I'm not going to do it this year either, but hopefully next year I can try and funnel people to only on the weekends. That way I can, during Monday through Thursday, I can completely focus on getting the nursery restocked for the next sale, and then whatever time's left after that, getting things planted out, potted up, growing for next year, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, a couple of things. One, you mentioned COVID. So for people that aren't doing this or haven't done it, I think for almost all of us, the people that we've talked to, COVID last April, March and April, we were all like, what's going to happen? Are we going to be allowed to sell, or are we going to get arrested if we open up for business? We
Yeah, I
just
called my
didn't know.
sheriff's office to find out.
Yeah, you raised your hand. So, but in the end, it was one of the best things to happen for the nursery perspective, because it gave people something to do. That was something that they could go outside and they could do it safely. And everybody during COVID had taken a reinterest in their own backyards and stuff. So it really was a big plus for just about everybody in the green industry, not to mention all the home improvement stores and stuff like that. I'm trying to think. So you've been at it about 10 years.
Yeah, exactly.
So what year did you start then? Do you remember?
I'll base the birthday of the nursery on the earliest receipt I have, which is a box of screws. May 15th, 2011, I believe.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right, everybody, take note of that. He kept the receipt from a box of screws, which is really, really smart business for especially a guy that was pretty young and just starting out. So that was one of his first, legitimate deductions. So
yeah, I would like to be able to throw away some of those old files, but every once in a while I need to dig back in there to try and figure out something. So I'll probably have an ever expanding pile of receipts and files somewhere in my house.
Yeah. There's
So
something else.
you're speaking of COVID. I mean, that's one thing I'm kind of wondering about for this year, because you had so many people off, they didn't have anything else to do, so they came out and bought plants. The drift I've gotten from all kinds of nurseries is their sales went through the roof. So I mean, mine was, I think I made like 50,000 more over the previous year.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting that I'll probably be able to get back to about what I sold last year. But if I see a kind of a retraction on that, I won't be too surprised either, just from things going more back to normal.
Yeah, I kind of feel a little bit like you do that, we kind of used up a lot of that extra that was there. And people in general are they're pretty much done with COVID. And then through all of this year, people are going to start working their way back to their normal lifestyle, their normal habits. So I'm not sure that we'll see them in the numbers that we saw them in last year. But you've been doing this long enough to know that people are always going to come out and buy small plants, and they're always going to come out and buy plants that are priced at somewhere between $5.97 and $7.97 or even $9.97. Of course, and we also, all of us sell plants. I mean, I sell plants for $125, $250, not that many, but I have some. And a lot of our members do a lot of 2 and 3 gallons in the $15 to $20 price range. So there's a lot of ways.
Probably the most expensive plant I have would be like a coral bark Japanese maple in a 2-gallon container, and that would be $39.97. So I typically tell people about 95% of the nursery is all $5.97, and I have a handful of a few that are less and a few that are more, but $5.97 is mostly it.
Yeah, that's kind of how my place is. It's mostly $6.97, and then I had some lavender twist last year at $125 and a few Japanese maples that were, I don't know, $149 or $199, but most of my stuff was at $6.97. Now you mentioned, of course, that's a great niche, because people are going to come miles and miles and miles to be able to shop, knowing how your pricing works. That's a big thing. There are a lot of places they can go and buy plants for $40 or $50 in a 3-gallon container. That's not what we build a business based on not doing that. So now you mentioned trying to close up all week and just sell on Saturday and Sunday, that's another, it's another, I've said this from the beginning, is that when I have a hold of sale, I like to create that buying frenzy, because if people show up and they see other people loading plants into a wagon like crazy, they immediately start loading plants into a wagon like crazy. And if you're in a situation where you just can't do that, maybe you're in a a residential area, or you're in the city or the village or something, and you just can't attract that kind of attention or that amount of traffic, then you have to do things differently. You may have to do them by appointment and stuff. But boy, if you can create that buying frenzy, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. I have a one broken wagon that I haven't had the heart to throw away yet. And at times you have enough people out there that the demand for wagons, they'll deal with a broken wagon if they can just use it.
I know, exactly. You're still a relatively young guy. Do you see going the direction of wholesale at all?
I don't think so. I mean, my nursery, unless I clear more space and make the nursery even bigger, that would mean the amount of plants I have now, I would be making less money per plant. I already spend a lot of time potting up plants. I'm not looking for a reason to do more. So one of the things I would be kind of nervous about with wholesale is if you somehow make a customer mad, losing one wholesale customer is going to hurt a whole lot more than if I lose one retail customer.
No, you're absolutely right. I got a friend that grows a lot of stuff in 1 gallons, and there's a great big nursery right next door to me. They do about 1,800 acres of nursery stock, and they were buying 300 and 400 1 gallons at a time from this friend of mine. And then they were evergreens, and then they'd blow them in, throw them into a 3-gallon container and grow them for a couple of months, and then sell them, as a 3-gallon size. It was a great thing for them. They were buying them probably for $3.50, $4 a piece. But in 2008, as soon as the economy took a dive, the first thing that those big growers do is they cancel their orders for everything they have coming in for the future. So, you're right. You can lose a $40,000 or $50,000 customer in the blink of an eye. So, and I understand what you're saying, because I don't want to pot more and deal with more plants and then sell them for less money either. I mean,
Exactly.
Wholesale is there's nothing wrong with the wholesale market, but it's a different thing. You got to be bigger. You got to have a lot more help. There's just a lot of things that you need to do differently. Anything else that you want to throw in here real quick? And if it's okay with you, I'm going to let everybody that's on the call here ask you questions that they may have. Is that all right?
I've got a couple of things that popped to mind for anybody who's new at this. There are a couple of things that really are helpful. Is one, write some bench cards for your plants. That keeps you from having to tell every single customer everything about every single plant. You can't be everywhere at once. It keeps people shopping around longer. Even if you don't have a picture of the plant, just the basic information is great. I mean, that is my spring project. I mean, I just finished up writing up all my new ones for the year. So I make a list of everything that I need to write, and I'll make up all the new information cards. So put some effort into that. That bench cards are one of your best sales friends. And also if you're getting started at this, look into privacy screens and ground covers. Those are things that people are always looking for in mass. With all the neighborhoods that just get crammed together like that. I mean, bad neighbors are great business. I mean, I am constantly selling privacy screen trees for people trying to block a road, a neighbor, a telephone pole, just anything, and they'll come and buy 5, 10, 15, 25 of those trees at once. So look at privacy screens. That's the evergreens are typically pretty hardy, low fuss plants in the nursery, and they sell very well.
Yeah, exactly. I sell. That's the thing with arborvitae. I sell a lot of them. There's a lot
Oh yeah.
going on at one time. So, anything else that you want to? There we go. I'm clicking around and I kind of lost my place. That's how computer savvy I am as well. So I actually went to look for something because I thought that I had done a page about your nursery on mikesbackyardnursery.com, and I did. So I'll put this video on there. But meanwhile, the name of your nursery is Whistle Hill Nursery, right? In Clinton,
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we want to make sure people are aware of that. Anything else that you want to offer? By the way, you showed us pictures of your bench cards and the
Mhm.
holders that you made out of cattle panels a couple
Yeah,
days
yeah.
ago in the members area. That's pretty awesome. Those really neat, very, very neat looking. So that was
Yeah.
impressive.
My only concern with the cattle panel ones is if you have a bunch of plants close together, is that going to be like a fence where people are going to have a hard time reaching down to pick up the plants? And they might be in the way every once in a while, but that really hadn't been an issue. So I'm happy with that.
And again, I want to mention to people that are listening to this, you know, Nathan kind of fought with his computer when we started, so we do not have video of him, but there's
Lucky
definitely.
y'all.
Uh-huh.
I have a question.
Okay.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Hi, and thanks for all your help. Where do I find the pictures of the bench cards and the cattle thing on the members area? Can I do a search or what? I'm kind of an old dog.
It should still be on the main page. There's someone. It's not a post that I started. I added on to someone else's existing one, asking. I think it had something to bench card may have been in the title.
Okay.
So just scroll down the front page. If it's gone to the second page, just look around for something that says bench card, and I might be should be about halfway down that post.
Yeah, somebody, it should be on the first or second page for sure.
The other thing real fast, you're talking about what you don't get done and what doesn't work right in life. I'm a Christian, and people would come and tell me, I just have a 1 acre at my home, little less than an acre. I'm very
Mhm.
small compared to most people, but I'm very successful. Thank you, Mike. And people would say, you know, wow, this looks great. And I'd comment about something that wasn't done. And finally the Lord goes, Judy, they're looking at what you've done. You're looking at what you haven't done. Let them enjoy it.
Or you
So-
could do what I do back in the nursery. So every once in a while, I'll just climb one of the big old maple trees back there and look at the nursery up top. You can't see the weeds from there.
Hey, Nathan.
Yeah.
First of all, you're an inspiration. This is my first conference call, but man, I heard Nathan was going to be on. I love what you're doing there. How many varieties of plants do you think you offer?
I'm actually, after I get some of this this next wave of potting done, I'm going to pay my sisters to do a census of the nursery, trying to figure out what I have. Just a rough count in the sales area, which isn't everything last year. I think at peak we were having over 300 varieties. Now that includes like 10 different varieties of creeping phlox. So
Right.
that counted as 10, not just one variety. So
Correct.
yeah, somewhere in that range. It's I don't have a good
Yeah.
system of trying to keep track of how many I have of what. I just know when the nursery's full and when it's empty, and
Right.
usually have it.
Do you think that having that large variety, I mean, you have got to be a major competitor to other nurseries in the area there. Do you think in terms of carrying 800 arborvitaes, or massing up smaller numbers, or do you try and have smaller numbers of more varieties? Does that make sense, my question?
I think I might get your drift there. It really depends on what kind of plants we're talking about. Like I mentioned with the privacy screens, I'll lay in a lot of those. My best-selling privacy screen tree is a Murray cypress, and I bought 1,600 of those.
Wow.
The next highest one would have been 500 green giant arborvitae. I just recently dug and potted about 200 emerald green arborvitae. Then on the other hand, I got some of those red maples, not the Japanese red maples, just like autumn blaze or something like that. and I only have 25 of those. I mean, it adds variety, but I don't expect to sell tons of those. So some plants are just in there as token holders of like 25 or just a small handful. It adds variety. I sell some of them, and it just gives more things for people to choose from. But like I said, it just depends on the plant. If I know that
Right.
I'm going to sell a lot of it, I'll lay in a lot of it. And other plants, we'll try some of those. I've never tried some of those. Let's get 25 and see how it goes. It'll add variety, and
How many new
I
plants?
may have a handful left over after the
Yeah.
selling season.
How many new plants do you add a year roughly?
Didn't. I'm always adding more than I think
Okay.
because some of the sources like Emerald Coast Growers, I buy a lot from them. They'll discontinue a plant that I've grown, so I have to choose a different one. So I just got finished writing 70 new information cards.
Okay.
So yeah, I used to think that someday I'd get to the point where I don't have to hardly write any new cards, but I don't think I'll ever get there. I'm always going to be dissatisfied with the performance of one variety, so I'll try a different one, which necessitates a new card. So it in some ways like that. I mean, it hadn't leveled off like I'd expected it would.
But your customers also like to see new stuff coming in. I'm sure they ask you, you have the same stuff all the time, or does it change?
Yeah, I'm sure I've got some regular customers that they'll come up in the spring and they'll be looking for something that hadn't been there before. So yeah, there's always that aspect.
And when you're advertising your plants, whether you're doing it on Facebook or wherever you're doing it, you never know what plant in that list is going to make that person come out, and then they, and of course, it's the old Walt Disney theory. If you do what you do best, people will come and they will bring others. So every new customer is a potential referral. So that's why that variety really helps a lot to bring somebody out. And it's kind of crazy, way back a few years back, I had a bunch of rhododendrons and I just bought kind of whatever the grower had available in liner size. So I had an assortment, and I can't even remember which one it was now, but I listed it in, I don't know if it was a newspaper ad, maybe we put it on the website, but somebody actually did a Google search looking for that one rhododendron, and I had it. No one else in the area had it. So, bingo, you get a new customer.
Hey, Nathan, this is Tom and Kathy from Lidditz, Pennsylvania.
Hi.
Hi. Tom had asked the question about new plants, and my Tom, we just did bench cards for 50 new ones, and I was so glad when you said you did 70. So
it takes a while, doesn't it?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And not my favorite job.
Yeah. The other question I had is, what kind of advertising do you do, and where, and how much approximately do you spend?
Yeah, sure. So I used to do some in the Knoxville newspaper. I did one run in that to start last year, just to let the customers that you got used to looking at me in the newspaper, just to let them know I was open again. And then that was it. I don't plan on doing newspaper again. That's cumbersome. I really didn't like having to do the go-between, or you send it to them, they proof it, they send it back to you. It's just a mess. So I only use the Facebook advertising right now. That has worked really good for me. I've got a big enough customer base now to where I think I could probably do okay without even paying to boost the posts. It would still get around enough for me to have a successful sale. But I think at my peak, I've probably spent, I've kind of forgotten what number that was. It was, I want to say 6,000 on advertising for an entire season at peak. Last year, I actually really slacked off the advertising during some of the COVID stuff because I wasn't sure if I should be bringing in huge crowds right now. So my expenses were actually far less because of that, and cutting out the newspaper. So I was probably 3,000 or less last year, and I had my best year. So I post to a few of the like the what do you call those things?
Oh, the
Garage sale
marketplace.
garage sale groups on there, and it brings a few people in, but I haven't had the whopping success with that that other members have had. And also do Craigslist. Mom heads up the Craigslist ads for me. She posts those and puts all the pictures on there and all that stuff.
Do you collect emails as well and do newsletters or anything like that?
That brings up an interesting point. I would like to get better at that because I could see I don't really post anything on Facebook except my nursery and stuff, but Facebook's kind of squirrely these days. So I could see the need at some point to abandon them. And it would be nice to have my own customer list where I wouldn't have to use a third party like that. I could just directly contact it. But I've been really bad about collecting emails and stuff. I just don't like asking people for stuff like that. But that would be great to have. Let me know if you figure out a way to do it.
That actually, we've done that from the very beginning, and our email list is huge. And we just have them fill out a form when they are
just like write it out on a piece of paper and
Yep.
you enter it in later.
Yep.
I'll have to focus a little bit more on that. Put a little more effort into it.
I'll send you a copy of it.
Okay,
Nathan,
thanks.
I'm like you. I've done it, and I've got a list. I got it in Excel. I've never mailed them one time. I mean, I hate to admit that. I mean,
But it's
yeah,
there if you need it.
we have the huge list that is associated with all of our online stuff, but that's not local. But the list we collected is local. Tom and Kathy's list is local. The beauty of that is you send something to that email list. They know you, they appreciate you sending it, and you can do private sales, and maybe you have a limited number of something that you were able to pick up. So you can make it a little more intimate when you're talking just to that list. The easiest way in the world to do that is find a really nice plant, maybe a weeping lace leaf Japanese maple. Is going to cost you a few bucks if you buy it. Set it by your checkout area, and then ask people to enter the contest to win it. And of course, in the process, they're giving you their email address and permission to email you. And it says that right on the form. By filling this out, you're giving us permission to contact you via email. And then it becomes really, really simple. And then you take those little pieces of paper and you give them to your mom and say, hey, Mom, enter these in the database for me, will you? And then from there, you can put them into some kind of a listserv. We use Aweber, which is a paid service, but most importantly, get them in a database where you have them, and then figure out how you're going to mail to them later. Because you're right about, Facebook being a little squirrely. It's just a media that could or could not. It's either it could quit working or it could go away, or you never know. They could fire you. I mean, I've been kicked out of, we were in Google AdWords for years, and I paid a lot of money to them. And then one day Dustin ran an ad, and he asked them to review it, and they closed our account. They didn't like it. They closed, and they did that to hundreds of people, at one time, because they had all these big businesses paying them lots and lots and lots of money, and they no longer needed us little guys. And so you get kicked to the curb. So you always got to keep in mind that media source that you're depending on, like newspapers, could go away.
Yeah. I would like to go back to the guy's question about variety, and I wrote a note down to bring this back up. I don't think quite like this as much as I used to, but back when I was probably about 5 years into it, I started, as far as variety, I started thinking more in terms of, if I get someone out here, I want enough variety there where they'll at least find one thing that they can't live without. So I would put an effort in when I was restocking the nursery down there that, well, maybe we'll just add a quick 7 of these over here. Just that might be the one thing that one person wants. So having a good variety to choose from. I mean, a lot of people will find a whole lot of things that they like, but there might be that one person where it's just that's the one thing that they need, and you still got money from them. So
Not only did you get money from them, but you kind of satisfied an itch that they had. They may have been looking all over for that thing, and they're going to go off and say good things about you. So there's nothing but positive that can come from a pretty wide variety.
yeah, it's also fun to. I mean, if someone buys a lot of plants, I'll often volunteer that, hey, you bought so much, any of my 597 plants, just go back out the nursery and find you one as a thank you plant. And people really appreciate that. And Walmart's not going to do that for you. So it probably helps solidify me in their mind.
Yeah, what I have, liked to do and probably haven't done as much of as I should have lately, but kind of have some courts setting by, and I'll give them to the little kids. So if a young couple comes and they got two little kids or little kids, I give them the plant, and we name the plant, and then they take it home. I'm like, this is your job. And, it's a big thing. People remember that. The kids remember it forever. So like you said, that's not going to happen at one of the big box stores.
I had a little girl out there at the nursery last year that she was looking at some little tiny 1 gallon dwarf Alberta spruce trees that I had, and I leaned over to her mom and whispered, "Hey, is it fine if I give her that? Just make sure before I gave it." And she loved that tree, and I forget what she named it, but she named the tree before she left the nursery. So it's funny that you're naming plants up at your place too.
Right. And part of that is why we do what we do, because it's a special connection with people.
Well, that's nice too, but I do it for the money. If I want to get paid, I wasn't gonna be doing this.
You don't do it strictly for the money, or you wouldn't be giving your sisters all those cuttings to sell.
No, I can't do everything, so
Yeah.
someone's got to get some use out of it.
All right. Anybody else? Questions for Nathan?
Hey, Nathan, do you sell annuals or in hanging baskets, or you just stated the perennial tree shrub business?
No, I steer away from the annuals. The closest I get to that is I grow some biennial plants. Some foxgloves are kind of short-lived. Got some Sweet William that I grow. They're kind of short-lived as well, but they reseed. But no, I'll leave the annuals to other people. I think to really get that going good, you'd probably need some sort of setup with a greenhouse or grow lights or something in your basement, and I just don't want to mess with that. I mean, the perennials, if I don't sell it, it'll survive until next year, and it's not a guaranteed loss. So I'll just leave that to other greenhouses.
I've said this to other people. I have a friend that was in the annual flower business, and he did all kinds of every kind of annual you could imagine. And they did poinsettias and for Christmas and hanging baskets. And finally, he said to me, he says, when we finally hit $1 million in debt, we just walked away from it.
Ew.
And unfortunately, because it's an expensive business to be in, the gas bills alone are insane to heat those greenhouses. And they used to, they would have a company that would come in the fall, late fall, early winter, and literally paint all of their hoop houses, their greenhouses, really their heated greenhouse. They paint them with white paint to reflect. I think it was the end of the season they did it. So they would paint them so they wouldn't get too hot during the summer. So they paint them in early spring. And they would paint it with some kind of special paint that would fall off by the time winter rolled around, so the sun rays. So it was a very, very complicated everything they did. And then they would have to grow enough stuff so that they were selling to big garden centers and stuff, and that they would have to have enough on hand so the garden centers could make that initial order, fill the garden center up. And then if they had, 2 or 3 really good weekends, they wanted to reorder and restock again. So you had to have all that on hand. But if it was a cold, wet, rainy spring and the garden centers didn't move that much product, they wouldn't place that second or third order. All of those plants go in a compost pile. So
what a waste.
Yeah, it's, to me, it's a tough business. I mean, you know, we got a local greenhouse here and I go and buy a few annuals for my yard and stuff. By the time I get there, there's nothing left. So they do really well with it. But so I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it can be challenging.
Hey,
That's the-
Nathan,
Yes, ma'am.
how do you overwinter your plants? Do you let them all outside or you have some hooped or how do you do with yours?
I go through both the cell area and the propagation nursery in the fall, and I will sort plants into specific rows. Some plants that I intend to leave uncovered, they go in this row, and then ones that I'm going to cover go in the row over here. Yeah, I'll build a rib cage out of PVC pipes and zip ties, and that gets covered with white plastic. Probably built about 40 hoop houses this past winter. Actually uncovered them all today after lunch because it's 50 something degrees down here and sunny, and it's going to cook them. And I need the rain to water them tonight. So yeah, so those it's kind of a pain to go through the entire nursery and build all those hoop houses, but it beats the heck out of losing a lot of plants if you get a really rainy winter or something like that.
It
So
was 5 degrees here this morning, by the way, Nathan.
it's what?
It was 5 degrees here this morning.
I can probably count on one hand the number of times it's been 5 degrees down here. Talk about that other nursery that got into so much debt doing the annuals. That is one nice thing about your business model that you've laid out for people is it's very scalable. You don't have to put a huge investment in, and you could shell out what 65 cents for one cutting. You could start from that if you wanted to, but you can start with just a little bit. I mean, I didn't get into any debt whatsoever getting started with this. I mean, I might have been able to get started faster if I'd gotten out some loans for some cash or something like that, but it grows on its own, literally.
But you've been around long enough. You hear me tell people all the time, because once in a while I'll get somebody come in and they're like, hey, I need to make $50,000 net a year by the end of this year. What should I buy? I'm going to borrow some money. I'm like, no, don't even think about doing that. I tell people all the time, don't go in debt to do this. You're a perfect example of being able to do this with a very, very minimal amount of startup cash. And then you just told us that you spent $49,000 on plants in 2020. I think I spent $24,000, but the point is you spent $49,000 and you're not borrowing money from anybody. That money came from plants that you sold in the previous year. So that's really, really important. And not many businesses have that luxury.
Yeah, I think so. I started in 2011. My first selling was in 2012. Let's see, 13, 14. The first year that I turned a profit was 2015. So about 4 years into it, I did a $30,000 profit that first year. But yeah,
so
this will kind of show some of the new people how fast this can grow. So the gross number that I was selling the first year I started selling, I did 6,000. Next year, 12,000, 24,000, and then the year I turned a profit, I did $54,000 in sales that year. So I mean, it was doubling every year for those first few years.
That's good. That's awesome.
I don't double it every year now, thankfully. I couldn't keep up with that.
No, but you kind of hit kind of a nice size for where you're at now. Now you can tweak it and fine tune it, and kind of focus on what you want to do and not do. And I like the fact that you're after we get through this COVID thing that you're going to try and close and just open up a couple of days a week. There was an old guy here that used to drive around. We got 100 wholesale nurseries right here in this area, and he used to drive with all the nurseries, and he would buy whatever was left over on the loading dock or whatever they had. He always had a great big wad of cash in his pocket. So these wholesale growers love to see him coming in because they never got cash. So when
I
he
love
came
cash.
in,
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, when he came in, they looked for things, to give him. And when I was a kid working in the nursery, we had a guy come in. We called him the junk man but he would come in and he would take all the broken balls, whatever it was, and then we were minimum wage workers, he would tip us. I'm making $1.60 an hour and he give me a $2 tip for loading his truck. Next thing you know, I'm re-burlapping stuff and putting it on the truck for him. So, but this guy he lived about 60 miles from where I was at. He had a little tiny place here in Perry, right down the road from me. And then he lived about 60 miles away. And he would only be open on Saturday. But a friend of mine used to haul plants for him. And every night after work, he would make 2 or 3 trips, the 60-mile one way, hauling plants out there. And then Saturday morning, he would open up for business, and people, he said it was crazy. People just throwing money at him. And it was like a 3-ring circus. And then it was over. And then he spent the whole week acquiring more plants. So there's a lot of different ways to do this. More questions, anybody? Comments? Jen, you're way too quiet. All right, Nathan, anything else you want to say? Tom and Kathy, anything you gotta kick in there? Roger, anybody? I think it's been a good call. I think people are going to really appreciate everything you've shared, Nathan.
Yeah, I got in this just right before Nathan did. So
Yeah, I was sitting there watching you. I thought all that was wrong with my camera initially was that I keep a piece of tape over it, but apparently that wasn't the issue.
oh yeah. Now they I've expanded out to my limit, and I have nowhere near the space that Nathan has to work. I don't even
I've
have
seen
half
your
an
setup
acre
on there. It's amazing. I don't know how you do it all.
I don't either, so it's a mystery to all of us. I ship stuff to Tom, that keeps him going. So
Yeah. And so your nursery is how big a space is your nursery? Because you're really packed in there, aren't you?
yeah, where we actually do the selling, like this year we had everything out of the nursery back there. The main area is Mike's been there, was what, like 30 by 35 feet, something like that. And
Yeah,
then
how big is your lot, Raj?
my whole lot
Yeah,
is only 0.49 acres. So we're
Right,
not
so
even a half acre.
so there's a house, a driveway,
Old slab,
old slab.
plus the yard. But we got a big driveway. Our driveway's over 100 feet long, and part of it's like 2 or 3 lanes wide. We go back,
that's
we can
nice.
turn around. Yeah, but it's not nice enough for people to park in.
Oh, yeah.
when we have sales, this year we would get 4 or 5 cars back there, and I spent as much time getting people backed up, turned around, and without hitting each other, as I did anything else. We had no incidents. We would get somebody, hey, you mind moving your car a little bit, or pull up here, and I literally 20 times turn around people and get them backed up and pulling, and some people, I can just back out of here, and I don't want you to, stuff like that. But our whole area, the small area over by the barn, what we call the barnyard, because it's next to the neighbor's barn there, that's only about 15 by 30, something like that. And then of course we had plants sitting in the yard back here, but yeah, it's not very wide here.
Roger's using every square inch.
Yeah, and there's room to pull. We have 4 wagons here. We have 2 bigger ones and 2 small ones, and there's room to move the wagons through and try not to bang into too many of them, as people had 2 people or something going. But yeah, we don't shop with wagons. If people start, we'll just pile them up here, then all right, if there's a wagon available, we'll get it and load it and take it out there for them. But
Yeah, my parking lot is, people just pull off alongside the driveway, which is yard most of the time, and you get so much traffic on there that when it was wet, it would get muddy, and actually had some cars that would kind of slide down and tap the car next to them this past year. So I got some of that. It's a heavy duty green mesh parking lot stuff from A.M. Leonard, and tacked that down. The grass is supposed to grow through it. It's supposed to give it some stability. So I'm hoping that'll help fix some of the problem. If it does, I'll be doing more of my yard like that, because it gets worn down pretty good in some places.
That's why I don't do the paid Facebook ads, because I couldn't handle it here.
Yeah.
I mean, in the past, we've done it when we were selling in the front yard, like in past seasons, we would put it out, an ad, open up, and our street is busy anyways, or for a little blinker light town that we have. And we would actually get rather nervous because people were parking on both sides of the street, up, 5 or 6 car lengths each way from our house. And so traffic would actually have to stop, to let others go through there. And so it gets rather scary doing that. So we avoid that. I actually put in my ads, that parking is very limited. So you got to be very careful and cautious. And I tell people to, try not to be too rude coming in. But it's, I get tons and tons of repeat here. So that they know it. My biggest thing here is people would come, they still park up front and then they'll walk down the driveway to get here. And this year, it's muddy. You get people that show up in their fancy shoes and don't want to walk in the mud. And they kind of expect they're coming to an asphalt driveway and big concrete nursery and all this fancy stuff. And I tell them, it's my backyard. This is what you got. I'm walking around in boots.
Yeah.
All
It's
right.
It's amazing how far people will drive to come out to these sales. I have people that will probably drive about an hour to come out to my sale. It's nuts. You could find another nursery closer by, and the cost of gas to get out to my place, it might make it about the same. But I'm glad to have them out here.
Probably not. If you shop those other places, it would, your people are really getting a good deal. But that's, I've said that for years. People, and this happens to all of us, people will bypass all the big box stores and 2 or 3 full service garden centers to come and do business with us. And that's really important for people to understand that have not started selling yet, that people they want to, and especially I think after COVID, people really learned to have some more appreciation for the little tiny mom and pop businesses, because they realize that something like COVID can really have effect on people's lives personally, that are really going above and beyond like you are to give people a good deal and, provide a great service. So, and that's part of what we do is it's building relationships with those repeat customers.
One of my favorite customers I ever had was one of the employees from the garden center a mile down the road came and bought plants from me.
Right.
I knew where the deal was.
I get people that come here that work for Fairview Evergreen. They're a humongous place, and they've stopped here to buy plants, and they have access to whatever the junk, the stuff that damaged plants or whatever. They can get that stuff. They've stopped here to buy plants.
And when I first opened, I ran a big half-page ad in the newspaper, and I looked up. My brother happened to be there that day, and I looked up, and here was a guy who owned a big garden center, and he was shopping, and because he just wanted to see who we were and what the heck we were doing, selling plants at $4.97. And and of course those guys can't do that. That's not their niche. They're they're the group selling the $35 or $40 mum and stuff like that. But that's not what we do. We're in that $5.97, $6.97 plant market, whatever price point you pick. I mean, Barb up in Canada just came up this week in members area where I think she's going to go to $7.97, which, to me makes perfect sense because everything we touch is going up. And eventually I know that I will do that. I know I'm not going to do it this year. I'm going to stay at $6.97. So
it's a regional thing. I mean, I'm still at I do $5.98. Sorry, but I'm still there. I will be, because it's not a big thing here. People are not about to spend that extra money. Even though stores around here aren't that much higher, Lowe's and stuff in Erie. This is not a big area for that. It's a very We're still a very depressed area. There's not a lot of homes being built here, very few actually. So it's not a big market, but you get into areas like, you get around the bigger metropolitan areas like Pittsburgh, stuff is sky high anyways.
Yeah.
So, that's like giving freebies away if he was doing $4 or $5.98. So you got to go with whatever you're at, your area.
Anybody else real quick?
Thanks, Nathan. Thanks, Mike.
Yes, just wanted
Hey,
to say
thank you.
thank you.
Well, thanks.
Everybody.
Thanks for everybody joining in. It was fun.
Yeah, thanks, Nathan, for doing this. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, hey, Nathan, I really appreciate it. I've been wanting to do this with you for a long time, and it was great, and I think people are going to get a lot out of this. And I'm going to, keep in mind, and the members are, I'll post this, but I'm going to put this on Mike's Backyard Nursery, and I'll put a link to the page, because we've got a page of Nathan's Nursery. If you just Google mikesbackyardnursery.com, Whistle Hill, you'll find, because I did a thing about Nathan's Nursery on there. You can see some pictures of Nathan's place, and there's a picture of Nathan. So
He also did the phone interview too, like I did, that you have on the university or whatever, right?
with Nathan,
Yeah.
see, I
He was-
don't even remember that.
I think
See,
he
it was utterly forgettable.
Yeah. Well, we never get to see you. I mean, come on.
Well, I tried.
He tried today. We tried really hard, and we still couldn't see him. So.
Right.
Yeah, I need to update my profile picture on the growers board because I'm not 18 anymore.
Yeah. You need to get up to Mike's if he ever gets to having a gatherings at his place again.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I enjoyed this just now. I'd have to borrow somebody's a brother's car or something like that because I drive this 33-year-old pickup truck and I wouldn't dare drive it that far from home. It'd probably leave me stranded.
You're still driving that old truck. That's awesome.
Yeah. When it finally breaks, I plan to put a new engine on it and keep it rolling. So yeah,
There you go.
it's got plenty of scratches on it, and it's low enough to where I can reach and grab a plant in the middle of the truck bed and still have my toes on the ground.
Yeah,
Can't do
that's-
that with modern trucks.
Right. Well, that's good. That's good. Hey, and listen, we're going to do another shindig. I don't know that it's going to happen in 2021, but I'm sure it will happen in 2022. And we would love to have you. And, I think you can rent a car for the weekend or borrow one for your brother or something and come up and see us if you can get away. That's the other thing. You got to be able to make sure that you can get away from your place,
Yeah.
All right. Listen, any last minute, anybody else?
Thanks, Nathan. Good luck to you. Have a great season, and I look forward to meeting you someday.
All right. Best of luck to you too.
Thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
Nathan, once again, go ahead.
I was just saying thank you.
No, thank you for tuning in. Hopefully it was useful to a lot of people.
It was good stuff. So thank you so much. We appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I hope, I know that there's a lot of good stuff here and it's going to be a pretty popular recording. So everybody enjoy your evening.
All righty.
Bye-bye.
See y'all.
Bye.